Hey, Tim. It's Alyssa again. Okay. I saw you today on a podcast, Lex Fridman, and I've watched his podcast before, like Andrew Huberman, at least 3 times. So your podcast from a few days ago, I'm going to be watching again. But you've said some things that are so comparable to the human body. And this is why I'm here to have this conversation with you, because you're going to go in microgravity. And any astronaut that's been in microgravity knows that when they come back to gravity, things have changed in their bodies. And if Elon Musk has a plan, or other people have a plan to terraform Venus or Mars, then we're going to have to learn how to handle gravity differently, microgravity or heavier gravity. So I want to have a conversation with you about our human pressure suit. And our human pressure suit is the in-between. And it's made of lots of different layers. So when you were talking to Lex, let's see, you were on his podcast. And here you were talking about different materials. Yes, I know you're talking about rockets. I get it. But there is, our bodies have been put together too. And we have fibers and liquid in our body and gases, very similar to what we can manufacture. So we have manufactured nylon, which is a plastic, and that is two substances when they come together and they create nylon. And as long as there's tension on that fiber structure, we get a fiber. Tension is very important. So when you were chatting with Lex, I thought, oh, I got to have a little bit of a conversation with Tim about this, because I think there's some things that you can do that will help your body recover while you're in microgravity, but also longevity wise. So when you're in your 80s here on Earth, you also find a way to have what you have said in the video, the inner layer of an engine. And substances are being chewed and eaten away. And it's not very elegant, as you say, and it's definitely not reusable. And this is the problem, because we have to use our bodies, and our bodies are adaptable and they recover until they can't. And very often we don't know what is happening in the background. Like when we saw with Dr. Joan on an earlier video, part 1 or 2 that I had sent you, that the epithelial lining starts breaking down even after 9 to 10 days in space, in microgravity, which changes nitric oxide and how nitric oxide is not being produced. And that's a gas. And we have our turbines in our nose, so that when we breathe in through our nose, these turbines spin the air and we produce our own nitric oxide. So breathing through the nose is so much more beneficial than mouth breathing. These are things about the body that most of us haven't heard, but they're extremely important for the reliability of your human pressure suit. And so I'm going to show you another picture, because the reliability is extremely important. And here we have a picture of a Danish woman. Yes, it's a real picture. I mean, how crazy is this? But it is from the sports page here in Sweden. And it is Saturday, the 18th of December, 2021. So the night before, the photographer was in the exact right spot. And the photographer found a perfect angle. And Denmark, I'm not going to say her name right, but Renhart, she was hit in the face with a ball. And you can see the reliability of our human pressure suit. It's very Stutza. It's very bouncy. Oh, do we ever have to have that bounce? And we have a lot of liquid inside of our body. And when that liquid gets hard, like maybe cold honey, things get a lot more dense. And then the sliding and the gliding doesn't happen. And this is where problems occur on a very small level, all the way up to bigger levels. And when we're on a small level, maybe things can't sense. So we want your human pressure suit and all these receptors that use pressure to sense, we want them active. So now you've seen the football player. Oh, and by the way, about 10 minutes later, she sat on the bench and then she got back in the game. Pretty brilliant. And she played the rest of the game. So amazing woman, definitely. Also amazing is our sense of touch. And we have quite a few people here in Sweden that are working on things in Linköping and other places, Gothenburg. And they're finding that on our skin, we have tactile fibers that really need to have this sort of touch. And they need that touch in order to process information, help our brains develop, but also that physical touch is important to every different stage of learning and our cognition. So you're going to be able to, you might be missing that while you are in space. So let's talk a little bit about touch. I think that's a good idea. Okay. So I have a website here, and as you can see, this is for parents of children, and it's important because there's a lot that parents can do to help empower their children to develop sense. And if I can, why don't I type in sensory development? If I could type sensory development. And they have a nice website. Let's try this again. Yeah, sometimes it takes me a little bit of time, but for the most part, we have it now. So on the same website that we were just on, if we go through here, sensory development, children have, we all start from inside the womb where there's a lot of touch, and we'll go through that just in a little bit. But the importance of touch to how you develop is extremely important. And when you're in there in space, I really highly encourage you to find some ways to keep that touch sensation active. So I know you're in a suit and you have sensors on the suit. And when you were doing your video for the suit, oh my goodness, that's an amazing thing, isn't it? Because you wanted to touch your SpaceX rocket, your SpaceX suit. And here we see a baby. And the problem is when you come back from microgravity, you might be on your back trying to sleep, but yet your body is still moving. And all these sensations that you're going to be feeling when you come back are pretty interesting and weird, and it might be even hard to sleep. I know I'm slipping through this pretty fast, but let's go to the fifth sense, touch. So we feel pain and pleasure. We feel whether pressure is light or deep, and it helps us understand the world around us. And the touch is the first sense to develop after conception. So the embryo, the fetus, is able to react to temperature and pain, and it's developed at birth. So babies who receive constant loving touch also develop emotional development. And so we think a lot of times when we see mouse pups or cats licking their puppies, their kittens, and and then pups also, we think that's cleaning, but a lot of that is a tactile response to help develop their emotional well-being, and so they're not so anxious. And we've seen that in the laboratories. We've seen that with animals that don't have a mother, that they grow up being quite anxious. So I did a video earlier, but I don't think it's going to be working because there's copyright issues. So I'm not going to play Dr. McLone here talking about what they've done over the past couple years with information that has been discovered here by Åke Vallbo in the 1990s. Dr. McLone and many others have developed a prototype of a mattress that can be set into an incubator, and this mattress delivers touch at a very specific frequency, which I think your engineers at NASA and SpaceX could outfit you when you're sleeping with a mattress like this, so that you are stimulating the body in the way it needs to. And just take a look with the transcript. In fact, we know that infants receiving in utero, the amniotic fluid is washing over the baby, and the baby is moving against the wall. And that is the tactile environment that helps the child develop properly, and also helps the microenvironment form the right fabric. So this they have hypothesized, and that we're going to find out that babies receiving this gentle touch, they're confident that the nerve fiber that is operational in the uterus will also stimulate when the baby's placed on this mattress. And in doing so, that will change the physiology and epigenetics and expression of certain genes, and particularly glucocorticoid and serotonin hormones. And they already have information that that is going to be true. So this is what's important for you, really important. And he has a great video right about here that I highly recommend anyone watching, because it talks about how touch goes into the skin system. And here is a nerve fiber on a hair. And then here is hair, non-hairy skin, or glabrous skin. And we also know from 2021 and work by individuals that this has the same sensory capabilities as the hairy skin, called C-tactile. And that's a cool thing. So you're going to see here, there's a report from 2021 by individuals in Gothenburg and different places, that there is evidence that on non-hairy skin, you have the same C-tactile afferent. And what does an afferent mean? Well, let's go back to Ardam Pataputian. And Ardam Pataputian and his group won the Nobel Prize in 2021. But these afferent nerve endings are extremely important for how we develop. So just to help with nothing is shared. Just to help with understanding what Dr. McClone, Professor McClone was saying about the amniotic fluid and the fibers that are around the baby. This is about 20 weeks. And so a preterm baby is having all of this input from the fluid around it. And you can see from Lennart Nielsen's he's a Swede, Lennart Nilsson's work, an amazing man who found a way to take pictures inside the human body. And he's produced some incredible images of how our layers develop. And here is 26 weeks, which a baby can be born at 26 weeks now, and it can be kept alive, but the skin is paper thin, almost like a butterfly wing. And so it's very important for that mattress to be developed so this baby has a chance of surviving. And what touch can do. Last thing. So just to put information together, the picture that we just saw was 26 weeks of a baby in utero. And so these two twins were born at 28 weeks. So 12 weeks too early. And this was in 1995, before cameras were available. So this photographer was asked to come in and take a picture of the twins because the parents were told that one of the twins, the smallest, she was having breathing problems. She was having heart rate issues. She wasn't gaining weight. 3 weeks after being born, and you can see how tiny this baby is, she wasn't thriving. And it was standard procedure to put babies in an incubator and provide everything for physiology, but not the importance of touch. So in desperation, after all this crying and this little one not eating, there was a nurse who thought outside the box, and she put the bigger sister in with the littler sister, and immediately there was an arm around the little sister. And in doing so, this little one calmed down. Eventually, she gained weight. Her heart rhythm and her breathing came back to normal. So this is the important about touch. And your spacesuit might need some work from Professor McClone or anybody here in Sweden who is working on these sort of things, these sea tactile afferents, so that you have a better chance of your human pressure suit being reliable and, like you said, reusable. Because as you and Lex Fridman talked about, if you have something that is not reliable and not reusable, how's it going to work? So I want the best for you. Enjoy your trip, and maybe I'll have another video at another time, but take good care. Okay, bye-bye.